Alrighty. Um, okay. Yep. 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 Um, so the I met up with Andrew Pam online, and the call was yeah, I mean he was very interested in what we were doing. He didn't say as much, but it sounded as though the revenue part is the bit that was the most left out by all the people that have tried to make a Xanadu thing or bits of the Xanadu system, and everyone shies away from that one because it's the hard bit, but it was actually the core of the system. Yeah, it's not something I think you can incrementally approach. It needs to be built in at the fabric, as we sort of suspected, but it turns out that's the it. Reading between the lines and summarizing our discussion, the number of attempts that have been put forwards that solve the revenue problem or the royalty problem are practically none. And then there's us, where we're like, oh, that's the main bit. Um, right. So he was pretty excited about that. Um, it in all, like, with the utmost respect, these guys are old, man. Like, they're I mean, Andrew's younger than Ted, but I mean, they are the old school. Like, they were around before any of this stuff um was mainstream. Yeah, and I know, but so a couple of key attributes that he passed on about Ted. Um, Ted was a big supporter of Bitcoin early on. Um, because he knew about it. Andrew said he'd even mined a couple of bitcoins with a CPU before GPU mining was a thing. Like, that's how early these guys were. So it sounds like they've basically been watching all of technology develop, and they're always looking for relative bits to the Xanadu system that they want, and then they don't get that, but they always get these kind of like nice little useful surprises on the side. Like, I mean, you can imagine how being an early adopter of Bitcoin went. So, um, yeah, it was. It, I suggested, hey, we should set up, and we'd be interested in helping set up a Xanadu prize to get the specs captured, and then you set up like a prize pool for implementations that meet the spec or something like that. Um, that sounded like a novel idea, like an idea that hadn't been floated before, and he really liked it and said he was going to go talk to Ted about it. And yeah, well, uh, look, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of there's a there's a lot of people, and there would have been a lot of diverse ways that their funding came to be, but old is definitely the common theme. Active as a community, it was hard to tell. It sounds like, broadly speaking, everyone agrees that Xanadu is a system that needs to be made, but uh, no one could do it. No one has done it. And Andrew sounded like he was part of various hypermedia groups where they're sort of trying to push the boundaries of hypermedia and exploring this and exploring that, and trying to develop novel ideas, some of which are Ted Nelson's as well, because it apparently has a lot of other ideas beyond just Xanadu um, as well, which sort of made sense when Andrew said it. I was like, yeah, well, you wouldn't just think of Xanadu, and that's all you could think of. Um, so there's that. But apparently, like again, I'm paraphrasing and reading between the lines, and a little bit seeing what I wanted to see, but it sounded like Ted was generally not happy that his vision and his ideas influenced so many massively influential systems and these huge money spinners, like Google, Lotus Notes. There's probably a long list of other things, and yet he doesn't really get any credit, much less any royalties or attributions for it. And I'm guessing he's a little bit dark about that, because trillions of dollars worth of value, and he's like, well, I sort of kicked that off and promoted it. So if we could demonstrate an ambient attribution agent and show how that agent, left to its own fair devices, ends up attributing him some, that's probably a very good, nicely tied up demonstration to show. It's like, well, yeah. Yeah, but well, but it's not about what we attribute to. It's about what the bot that we make attributes to. And so what it seemed was plausible to do is like, even if you were not directly relying on Xanadu, it would be interesting to see what the bot makes of the connections between, say, web services and Xanadu. Like, the connections should not be direct, and they really shouldn't be, because we put them in there. We can highlight them, but they should be recovered by the agent. The agent should determine that this concept was first laid out here, or this other thing that you rely on, HTTP, came from here, which came from here, which drew some of its inspiration from Xanadu. Those are the links we need to expose. Yep. Yeah. I think more what I'm saying is that the experience, the inventor's experience, is coming into view now, where someone who, like, I wouldn't have known about Ted Nelson, and I probably don't know half the story, right? But he should be able to come in there and make claims about who he met and who he saw, and be like, look, I was speaking to Microsoft, and I met Bill Gates, and I did this with Richard Stallman, and a blah, 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 blah. And the inventor's experience is to be able to reclaim or lay claim to these connections that aren't honored by society, or they're not monetarily acknowledged, they're not recorded anywhere strong. That should be part of the feature set of what you can get the bot to expand upon. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to say. I couldn't get a read from Andrew whether that's how Ted would feel or not. He did encourage me to reach out to Ted, but I don't think we should do that now because we don't really have enough to. We don't really have enough to show, really, and I feel in a few weeks or a few months we will have a lot more to show. But the reason why I wanted to push on the Xanadu X Prize is because part of the reason is that I was trying to see how attached Xanadu and Ted were. Like, is it a case that it can't be Xanadu because Ted didn't build it? So like these guys haven't really set up an independent thing. Like, you need to get into space at where space is this height, and then you need to get back up there 1 week later or something like that. Like, they haven't laid out the system in terms of conditions that you can meet. And so there's a danger that the Xanadu, the system, they would never acknowledge that Xanadu had been built by someone else unless they helped to build it. Now, it could be that building it and then also getting attribution for it might be enough. But ideally, what we'd want is to learn about what they think is different and be like, this is what we think Xanadu is based on what you've said. And can you help us understand how it's not? And then we can either build it or you can build it, and we'll reach an alignment. Mm. Yeah, there's probably a lot more to it than just those points. Yeah. No, I don't think so. I just feel like he's a guy who doesn't really need anything from anyone, and he's old. Old people are grumpy. Like, I'm grumpy. I'm not even that. Like, I'm just getting grumpier the older I get, and so the less bother that we can be, the better. Like, I expressed that concern. I'm like, look, Ted's pretty old, man. Like, we need to. Does it matter that Xanadu got built at all, or does it matter that it had to be him, or can we at least capture the requirements in a prize so that that can live longer than he can live? Well, I think he does. I just from looking at his videos and sort of, how you can get a feel from someone from, if you see them talking in a bunch of videos, you sort of feel like you know them a little bit. Um, he seems like a pretty altruistic guy. So we'll see. But that was the sum of the call. I found it was quite it was surprising in terms of how close we hit the mark. Actually, like, all of the things that we've been pursuing over the years, blockchain for high resilience computing, um, this attribution, this network innovation concept, yeah, it sounds like it's right on the money, but it's like it's not a hard target, it's a fuzzy one, and we're definitely landing right in the zone on all the things. But can it be made into a unified thing? That's really the bit that's missing from everything. Yes, it would be, but it's not. They're not that um cohesive. Like they haven't. If you asked to see our inventor notes 5 years ago, it would look a shambles, right? They've sort of been there for years. I mean, these guys didn't even have really recordings. They don't have a solid, refined thing. There just hasn't. I think there just hasn't been the money for it. You know, like everyone's tried. They've run out of time. They've run out of money. You know, uh, there's not. There's certainly not, from what I could tell, a group of young, enthusiastic university grads trying to have a hackathon and get Xanadu up in a weekend. That's not really happening. When I search the repos of GitHub, there's not a lot with the Xanadu term. It could be it's just been so long that the interest has waned with time. Doesn't make it any less of an idea, but the world is naturally poised to moving on. Uh, no, not even that. Not even that. Like I think just getting the ambient attribution bot up, because the ambient attribution bot is starting to look like it's got some complex, subtle qualities. Ethics being one, but also reverse engineering of links or relationships between information, uh, detecting fuzzy contribution or near contribution, influence contribution instead of hard commit contribution, right? Those types of things are possible, but subtle. And so I think even just that, because it looked like that was the really hard nut to crack for them, and nowhere in the literature is a solution, a mechanical solution, and we think we have one. So all we need is that bit. Again, that's all that we're really trying to strive for, right? All this fussing around is like really just to make a home for that one agent. No, get the agent up, and then demonstrate how a dollar in, like, show him how someone paying $1 for our services, a fraction of a cent ends up going to him each time. Just that. Because then you're like, well, you can see now if that scaled based on these calculations, this could work out well for everyone. It also sets the record straight. It's illuminating of the relationships that did occur. And so, he gets a chance to tell his story. Mm, mm. But he's still apparently very active and still very sharp. So, his mind's still there. But at that age, 6 months is you can go downhill very rapidly. So, no, actually, what I think is the best approach is to try and see if we can get the prize agreed to first, because otherwise we can turn up with a half solution and then the goalposts will change. Not maliciously, just because to him Xanadu is something that he is working on, and if you show him new information, of course the system will change because he's adapting it. We need to pin a version. Mm, mm. I think that the total sum of achieving Xanadu is made up of a collection of small, well-defined pieces, and there's no reason why the Xanadu prize has to be one thing. It can be a hierarchy of things where you're like all these little bits, each individually, they're worth X. Add them all up, and then you'll have like this module, and then add all the modules, and you'll have Xanadu. That's a perfectly fine way to do it. It is. That's what isn't that what we were talking about? Yeah. That's yeah, 100%. That's that. Is that not what we are talking about here? Why is I think we ask him to play with our system and then tell us how it falls short of Xanadu, and then we pin that, we stuckify that. Asking him to pin, asking him to pin before, asking him to pin before seeing what we have is gonna be difficult, and probably won't work in our favor either. But if we can insert what we've got as a benchmark, and I didn't like we can't say directly, but just from the my implication of my conversation with Andrew is that we sound like the most unified system so far. He didn't say as much, and he can't because he doesn't even know our system. But just from the lack of other alternatives being put forwards, and him saying that there'd been something like 50 people at 50 different attempts over the years, and all that. So I think we are the most advanced attempt, mostly because we got all the table stakes stuff down, but we also have this design for ambient attribution which solves the royalty problem, which it sounded like nobody had even fucking scratched at. Um, but if we can do that, and then if the X prize can be defined relative to our baseline, that's very advantageous to us. Where we're like, look, it's all open source, and anyone can change it. But if it starts from our baseline, at least it's achievable. Then it needs to start from a baseline. Put it that way. You couldn't just make the Xanadu X prize with like nothing but PowerPoints. But if you baselined it off something, and we're like, it's like this, but this other thing, that is a much more achievable set of stacks. Gap analysis. Yep. Yep. Yeah, and then we can arrange for well, first of all, capturing it, but second of all, we can arrange for putting some funds against it, because we can work on showing the value in solving them. Like, you're like, well, if you solve that, this is where it applies, and we've got people wanting to buy product and service over here, and therefore this thing is worth X dollars, so that makes it a good investment to fund this prize. But most importantly, we'd have. I think it's polite to not turn up and say we've got Xanadu because, as Andrew pointed out, Xanadu belongs to Ted because it's a copyright, it's a name, it's a brand, it's a persona, as it were, and so we can't really have Xanadu because it's not a havable thing. But a machine that behaves like Xanadu is attainable, and it would be of great boon to both us and to these guys if we could provide a sort of baseline project and gap analysis to get to the main one. Like that would be outstanding. That's it comes with it. Yeah. Yeah. Andrew was surprised that he hadn't heard of us. He was like, well, yeah, but we were also completely doing something different. And then we kind of tacked across to Xanadu. Like we weren't chasing Xanadu. But yeah, he was somewhat flabbergasted. He was like, how come, like, yeah, I can't believe I never heard of you guys. So what that means is maybe there's a bunch of people out there trying to do stuff. And then, we're just fucking outsiders. No, 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 but we should start one. We should start one. And if we provided the base system for it, like I think we can offer a lot of positive things to them. Like, here's these tools that we have, these AI tools that can help Xanadu get built more rapidly by more people and track the contribution as well. So, it's kind of like it's an all round win for everyone, the way I see it. Obviously, I'm biased, but getting an X Prize up on our platform that represents the gap between us and Xanadu, that's a hugely good thing for everyone, I think. Yeah, and yeah, yeah, we should because first of all, we can help Xanadu out, but second of all, they can help us out, and I don't know, it just feels like a good thing, and it would be extremely beneficial to us and to them and to anyone else who then sees it and goes, "Oh yeah, I heard of Xanadu once. Oh, that's still around. Oh, let me see." And then they're like, "Oh shit, me. That's fun. Why don't we make it?" Yeah, welcome to software. Yeah, it is pretty cool. Oh, look, I mean, you're welcome to try and talk to him, and I need to. I should back off because I now need to spend my time getting the actual platform up. The position sounds ripe. If you want to pursue forging relationships there, great. Um, but what I need to do is get the ambient attribution agent up like ASAP. Yeah. 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 It doesn't matter, right? Yeah, that's the thing. It's just natural to decay, and you can't help it. Yeah. Yeah, so I was just ecstatic that, like, Andrew's got so much enthusiasm for hypermedia systems, and Xanadu's like, just one of them, but he's like enthusiastic to make a better internet and very knowledgeable and very friendly and very offering of help. But he was like, let me know how I can help. Like, he's keen to see these systems built. Um, so yeah, it was good. It was good little pump there. Good little, even if it's not. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. It sounds like, s- yeah, yeah. I know. Well, I got an update on where I'm at with the platform. Um, I'm getting my ass handed to me by this framing thing again. Um, I have abandoned the previous method I had where I was using a library to do the communication between the frame, and I just wrote my own one. And it fits on about two, maybe 3 pages of code, and it looks really nice and runs. So the lesson there, I think, is Codex can do what you want, but it will just keep patching and patching and patching. And then at some point, it's overpatched, and you're like, ah, oh, crumbs. Like, each little incremental pull request that I approved looked good in isolation, but overall, I have wasted, I don't know, a week using very advanced tools to go a long way down a path that was ultimately wrong. Um, it's sort of, I don't know how to avoid that necessarily, but maybe the answer is just always stay as close to the middle as possible, because you know I didn't want to have to learn about the intricacies of you know iframe messaging. I was like, oh god, I just want this thing to work. Here's a library, says it works. Okay, testing shows it works. Okay, cool. But then I just ended up having to patch its very subtle differences, and then it was patch, 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 oddity, patch, patch, patch. Fuck. Should I patch the upstream library? Fuck. Like, it's been pretty awful, actually. It's probably been this last few months has probably been the worst time of my coding career, because it's so close to working that it like feels like it should be any day now, and then these crazy stupid problems come up, and then we got like an incredible tool like Codex, and I still can't seem to avoid fucking it up and costing time. But c'est la vie, I suppose. So that's where that's at. Yeah, yeah, but it's that's different now. Like, Codex represents a lot of the capability that I was getting with the teams of Interbit, and like research projects. You're like, this sounds like a good idea. Someone needs to. Can you chase the feasibility of that? Here's this module. How would that work? What about this? It's kind of the same as that. So it's not. I don't think it matters that it's just me. It's like I have this machine behind me that's very powerful, and I don't. It would go slower, I think, if I had more people. The way that I'm able to test something now is like half an hour to an hour, and then be like, oh no, absolutely, that's wrong. Um, Yeah. Yeah, and then you have to wait, and then you have to have arguments, and then it would be slightly wrong, and all that. So, I mean, what am I trying to get at? Part of me is like, did we really need the framing interface now? Maybe it looked easy, wasn't. Um, we kind of have it now. One of the sweet things that Codex did for me that kind of blew my mind, it made a complete in-browser mock of Artifact, and it got it right in 3 shots. And I was like, that. I was afraid of that because it looked like too hard. And then this thing just sailed in there, produced like a diff with like 540 something lines, and I was like, oh god, this will just be like horrible. And then I read it and was like, yeah, that's that works. That works. And so now we have an in-browser mock. I know, it is cool. So there's those kinds of wins coming along. The protocol for the frames, it now that I've sort of built it on first principles effectively from web messaging, I understand it. It is perfectly suited to our unique use case. And, framing as a concept enables jitters. And jitters are something that we believe is core. And so framing makes jitters. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, right. And so if you want it to be dynamic, then you got to have this jitter ability, this frame concept. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean the reason why I'm pursuing it is first of all a practical one, that we have so many apps, they can't be one massive development effort. They need to be independent little projects that can be hauled in and combined together arbitrarily, and that's why I need the frames. Plus, I want to run other people's frames. I don't want to be the only guy. Yeah, I'm fucking tired. Yeah, that is the UI. That's the whole UI. That's the whole thing. Mm. Yeah, because it knows you. Yeah, and then can like run all the jitters that it's suggesting you use, like candlestick charts and other types of things. It can run them in simulated mode, where it's almost like, like frames is more than just the UI. It's the ability to have the bot simulate what the UI would do, as well as it be the real thing as well. Like the weather app. Yep. Yeah. Hmm. I have moved. My neck's getting sore. Sorry, because I'm old. And I'm just trying to find a new seat so I can look at you without getting auto adjusted by this. Yeah. It's like, you are sitting. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm trying to talk to this guy. No, you are sitting. And I was like, yeah. I didn't. Don't tell me where to look. Okay, so yeah, so you're basically like, yeah, keep going with the framing thing. Okay, okay, all right, I'll keep going. I've been finding it very hard the last few months. It's been tough because we're nearly there, and I feel like we should be there. Like, yeah. Anyway, no point bitching on about it, but yeah. So frames. What else we got? Uh, Still no major change to the protocol of Artifact. Um, haven't got AI chats going yet, but look, I've done that plenty of times before, and I have kept an eye on it in the design. Should be fine. If it's not fine, then that means everything else is not fine too. So it's basically a very, it uses nothing fancy about the system. It just uses basic stuff, which is like, calculation. Yeah. 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 Yep. Yep. Um, so I do think it's going good, but it continues to baffle me the amount of time that simple things can take, like framing. Um, yeah, right. And how, yeah, a complete functional mock of Artifact in the browser that contains fake files, can read them, write them. Um, I'm like, oh, I wouldn't, I know I need that, but it's like wrapping my head around, what should I ask for? It's almost like the more wild or open your question is, the more chance of getting something back better. And then it gets down to a level where the minutia is best you just do it yourself or set the core by defining the protocol or something like that. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Or like know when the photo is got a bird. Yeah. And then they're amazed and they think everything's 2 seconds from that point on. But mm. Yeah. I guess the other thing about framing is that it also represents the core notion that we want, which is that we want to make AI tooling to make code for a specific framework where that framework was designed to be in the AI's favor. And so framing, which is the graphical equivalent of an app, is meant to be that when the AI codes it, it doesn't have to worry about any of the other concerns that come with an app normally. It only needs to worry about the artifact interface, which is simple, direct, and well understood because of the Git semantics and all that. And that's really the core of the offering of the Dreamcatcher platform is a greatly reduced programming interface so that you can make little things and get them right first time. You know, and that's kind of the problem with development when you try and vibe code your app and it now it brings in a web server. Now it brought in a database. Oh, now it's brought in an authentication mechanism. Oh, you want payment? Well, wait right there, sir. Like it's the platform, the Dreamcatcher platform is supposed to bring all those common hard things like, oh, you want it to scale? You want it to be resilient? You want it to be cheap too, I'll bet. All those things should be, those are not app concerns. Those are substrate concerns. And that's why framing to me is so vital, is that it represents a coded unit that fits that form factor. Mm. Modular. It makes it modular. It makes it component driven. The whole platform becomes component oriented. Yep. 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 Mm. Mm. Yeah. Automatic selection from the library of frames and naps. That's really what that whole thing's about. The AI chooses the tool based on what it needs. Mm. And the tools. Yeah. Yeah, and the real prize there is the automated gap analysis that we hope to occur. Like it goes to use it and it's like, oh, it's missing this bit. And then it's telling you what the gaps are in your system. Mm, mm. Ouch. Mm. Yeah. So I guess we got to start talking commercial real soon, but we got to get that ambient attribution agent up because that's the thing that guides our hand. Like, that's how we will value our deals. We're like, that's worth this, 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 and this based on this absolute measure of value. Doesn't matter that we're being offered less or more or whatever. It's like, well, when you look at it from the point of view of what the bot thinks, you know, our path should become much less cluttered, much clearer. Um, yeah, so hopefully, we can get something up. We can get the crypto side working first, um, because that's super easy. We can be of service to Satoshi Island, get some things going, get some stocks there, get some users, get some feedback, get some tuning, all that, and then just I don't have a better plan other than take it as it comes, but uh, so long as we've got the ambient attribution agent, I feel like that's the thing I'm running to, like a shield. Like, if we go into this mess and we don't have that, we're gonna drown. Like, things are gonna go south pretty quickly. Mm. I know it's so tempting because there's so much money, and you're like, it would be really easy to just take some of it and then come back later. But no, we gotta get this main agent up. Um, okay, that's cool. All right, we are still recording, right? All right, all right, cool. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, 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 yeah. That was a very expensive bridge, I recall. About a billion dollars or something. It's a long one. Mm, yeah, yeah. Yeah, can't wait for tomorrow.
Was their biggest attack on Ukraine by cruise missiles to date. So they were planning a mass cruise missile attack. So when you see all those Tuplovs out on the airstrip, they're there fully armed and fully fueled. And then just an
Oh,
hour
they
or
were
two
getting ready.
before taking
The-
yeah, that night they were meant to take off.
oh
Um,
no.
yeah, and so you can add in the cost of those cruise missiles
Oh
onto
no.
the yeah.
And also what was saved in Ukraine, if
Right.
those missiles didn't get
Yeah.
launched.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw the faces on the guys in Istanbul on the Russian side. They were not very
I'll
happy
bet, right?
bunnies. Last time they were
They don't look
smirking,
happy.
going, yeah.
Yeah, right. It's not
But
so
this
funny
time
now.
they're going June the 1st. They were meant to, carry out this Operation Zeus, which was meant to be a hammer blow, like a lightning bolt, down on Ukraine. And just a couple of hours before, all these drones came out from nowhere, and effectively, the operation didn't take place because they didn't have the units, and they were going one back. You had the air crews ready to go out. It's like, where's my fucking plane?
Where's my plane?
The other interesting thing I was hearing about from an analyst, a mate of mine, is saying that Taiwanese are looking at this in terms of, Chinese are building ships, large landing ships, in order to get armor onto Taiwan. They've got a declared intention at some point in the future to take Taiwan back, which they feel is still theirs, and so on. Taiwan's sitting here on all the GPUs, and are now looking at, well, how about if we just have silos of like a million, AI-driven drones that just swarms through the air and hits everything. Just say, you see that Strait of Water? There's no friendlies. Go kill everything.
No friendly. That is an unfriendly piece of water. If you see something,
and you could easily see that within their manufacturing capability to do so.
Yeah,
you could just have silos of these things that just come up like bee swarms. Which was, it was quite an interesting analysis of it, because there's a whole lot of chatter as well about what the US and Britain and France and Germany and so on do, but the US especially are concerned, because what you're going to do, you're going to stop container lorries driving around.
Right. Are you going to stop civilian internet? What are you gonna do?
It's very, very difficult to think, other than keeping, your key strategic assets underground, which would be horrifically expensive and practical.
Or making your strategic assets actually be lots of little drones, so that they're dispersed.
Yeah.
Like it almost seems like such a waste to have all these drones just sitting there at the ready. What you really want, I think, is a massive parcel delivery network by drones, so they're being used all the time, and then as soon as there's war, they just fly back to the depot, pick up their bombs, and go out to sea.
It's like, right? Amazon RPG. It's like, take this round to this location.
Yeah, right. And all you do is you're like, oh well, my pizza's not coming, is it? So, and that's fine.
That's brilliant. You're quite right, actually. You could just be using these drones all the time, and then just
all the time, more and more and more, and then you're like, that's the weapon.
Yeah. Forget that pizza.
And where's my Uber Eats?
Because it's literally the same thing. The difference being the one countermeasure was interdiction through EM or jamming. Or remove.
If it's AI powered, I think what we all knew was possible has been proven, that you could train an AI to make decisions that have an effective outcome. You can make an AI choose to kill, and that's perfectly legitimate.
But one of the reports, I don't know whether this is true, but it comes from a good source. They're saying the reason it was so successful was that they got the drones really quite close. So the entire operation is they set up a company in Russia to do haulage. They operated that company for a year, doing
so it was doing legit haulage.
Haulage. Hired a bunch of drivers, and then their procedure was, okay, just go here, park here, and then pick up this from this. And one of the waypoints happened to be where they wanted to be at the time.
Right.
And then the poor driver sitting there knowing nothing is going, what the fuck's going on? And then the top opens and all these drones come out. But because they're quite close, they didn't have to worry about GPS because
Right.
the drone operators apparently were just throwing them through FPV. They were just through the cell network, so very low latency. But all they had to do is get over the airfield and then say, right, AI, go find something.
Right.
So it was
Yeah.
unjammable. But yeah, very, very interesting stuff. Yeah, other than that, got a couple more things coming into the hopper. But yeah, still spinning plates.
I almost don't want to know. Like, there's just so much stuff, and we're not even really there. And I'm like, as soon as we've got the thing, it's probably going to be wild.
Yeah, and the mass of people with things that they want to do, as in stocks, is impressive. And a lot of them, you know, I think a lot of them have already said, even on a very kind of sketchy 10-minute, you know, this is what attribution does, are very keen on it because, hey, you know, cash flow.
I think it's how people think the world should work.
Yeah,
it's almost weird that it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. It skews things. But yeah, other than that, other than hanging out, it's about all.
Sorry, dude. I'm fucking trying, man. I'm trying.
No worries. The future's bright, and still haven't found anyone even thinking about this sort of thing.
Well, I'm sure we'll deal with all this, all the snakes and all the problems as soon as we pop our head up. But that can be a future Tom and Scott's problem.
Yeah. Let's screw those guys over. We'll just punt it. Screw you guys. And by the way, say thank you for past Tom and Scott.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we'll leave it there then.